Hello and welcome to the session on strategic management. In this session we will be talking about the resources, competencies and core competencies which are essential in an analysis to the internal environment. The objective of this session is to explain the concepts of core competencies and resources and apply them to hospitality, as well as explaining the relationship between the core competencies and the core activities. As a reminder, remember this model from ENDS 2010. We are now at the internal analysis section here in green. Before we go any further, we're going to look at resources, competencies, core competencies, and look at competitive advantage. What is competitive advantage and what makes a competitive advantage? First of all, to have competitive advantage, you need to apply your competencies in a superior manner. That means apply them really well. This we could call skills. You also have to use your sources intelligently and in a superior manner. These resources could be considered the assets. By combining these two, you create value for the customers. You sustain this advantage and sustain its relationship to the physical environment. Sustainability of a firm is achieved when it resists the erosion from competitive behavior. This comes from Porter 1985, page 20. It cannot be copied, substituted, or eroded by rival actions. You must be wondering now, what is competence and what is capability? In all industries, some organizations are more successful than others, regardless of whether the average profitability for the sector is high or low. The superior performance conceivable possess something special that competitors do not have access to that allows them to outperform their rivals. Look at what Evans says a competence is. Without this, a company cannot survive. Think of the competences that are necessary for an outbound tour operator. They need a means of distributing, marketing and selling the product, licenses to operate the required capacity, air transportation, suitable accommodation, and ground handling activities, for example. Now look at what a core competency means. The result of a distinctive capability is an output which customers value higher than those of competitors. How to achieve this will be later seen in this video. And then there are resources. Success can be considered in a way in which a business can use its resources to make them good outputs. We will look at the different types of resources in class. Can you think of any of these resources? So, combining these all, we get competitive advantage. Remember, competitive advantage is essentially when a business is able to return higher profits than its competitors. Higher profits means that they can commit more of their profit to reinvestment to maintain a strategic lead over its competitors. When this lead is sustainable for a long period of time, then a sustainable competitive advantage has been achieved. It can, however, be lost very quickly. We have to figure out what are our core competencies to achieve this competitive advantage. The analysis of our resources and competencies are a foundation to find them. As you can see, this idea comes from Kay 1995. So if we put this all together, a core competence is a superior deployment of service plus a superior application of general competencies. Let's now analyze our resources. They can be divided into two different parts. Tangible, which are stocks, materials, buildings, human resources, finance. Or intangible, skills, know-how, brand name, goodwill. They are usually within an organization and difficult to identify or quantify. Another interesting concept are the free resources. They can be available in abundance in nature, such as air, sea, climate, or culture. Resources, however, are limited, and using it for one reason stops the use for another. For example, a factory instead of a hotel. Let's consider some of the challenges when using resources. Is the resource immobile? That means it cannot be moved either by place or time. For example, in a beach or a mountain, or the culture of Spain, or snow in winter, not in spring, midnight sun in June, not other times. Think if a resource can be substituted. For example, a car factory have replaced people with machines. In hospitality, luxury hotel conference quality service is linked with the quality and number of staff. It is a very labor-intensive industry and therefore more difficult to substitute. Does the resource have any conflict or competition? When we talk about ownership and control, hospitality managers often have to use resources that they don't own, neither are controlled by the companies in the sector. Resources, of course, have seasonality, and this is very present in hospitality. Resources also have to deal with the constraints of capacity. Overdevelopment, for example, like this photo in Costa del Sol in Malaga, leads to people choosing other places that are better planned. In hospitality, it's very difficult to add resources, such as a room in a hotel, for example. So we've looked at different ways of seeing what are our resources, but how do we analyze them? We can analyze them by category. This we will see in detail in class. We can also analyze sources by its specificity. For example, think of a Michelin-starred chef compared to a cook. Lastly, we can also categorize and analyze resources by the performance. So in this video, we have tried to see that we have to get our competitive advantages by superior resources and superior competencies. Yeah. Here are the list of some of the references used.